Teresa Font,
Yes.
editor from Creditors.
Yes.
Congratulations with your film, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
for
much.
joining us.
Thank you.
So how did you become involved in this? Because I imagine you've got quite a track record. You presumably edited, I don't know how long you've been editing films.
72 movies.
72 movies.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, and they mainly European films or?
More Spanish movies, but some European films
Right.
too. Yeah.
Because I'm going to look on IMDb as soon as this finishes.
All right.
So how do you, okay, this is slightly unusual. I don't normally get to speak to the editors. It's normally the director or producer, and they normally come in as a collective, so they've built a film between them. But I suspect with you, they've built the film, they've made the film, they then employ you to edit it.
Yeah.
But during that process of the filmmaking, I mean, did they always wait for this one? Did they wait for the film to be finished and then you're contacted, or did you know when they were making the film?
I didn't know they were making the film. I mean,
Is that typical?
No. I always cut the films during the shooting. Always do that.
Right.
Always. But this film, I don't know what was the process, but the thing is that they called me afterwards. The director moved back to London,
Yeah.
and after a while, some post-production guy from Spain, because the production company is a Spanish.
It's a Spanish production,
yes.
yes, of course. Yeah.
And an English production too, but the Spanish guys, the Spanish production people called me.
So it's Anglo-Spanish, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
More, I think it's more Anglo, but well,
Yeah.
there's the Spanish company were responsible for the post-production, let's say. And so they asked me that the director, if I was available, and that the director would call me. So Ben got in touch with me, and he showed me a rough cut of the movie and sent me the script, and I said yes. I was so happy.
Lovely.
To be able to work in this movie.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Now, I know we joked about it, so we should explain that you do work from home.
Yeah.
And the reason why that I think is important is because most filmmakers that I speak to, when they're editing a film, they will have the director behind them, so you're making the cuts. But of course, how can that happen if you're remote? Because there's no one there behind you. Have they got to just trust that you're going to make the right cuts? How does that work?
Much better.
You find that better? Well, because you don't have the pressure.
No, because you can't have somebody over your shoulder. You don't have time to think. Because the director is always ahead of you.
Yeah.
He's probably written the script and he's shot the movie, so he knows a lot about the film. So it's better that they leave you alone to work, to try to find the film the way the film wants to be cut and what film we are making. You need some time for that. So even if this film is shot in English, and I am not an English-speaking person, as you can see.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I guess it's a visual art, isn't it?
It's visual, but it's also performance. This is quite a film based on dialogue. So at the beginning, I was a bit worried with my English, but then I found that it wasn't that difficult for me to get the best performances. So in the end, it's good that the director should come and you show him a first cut of each scene or whatever, because they have a fresh view of what you've been doing and cutting, and they can react properly because they don't know when you did the cut and what performances you used and when you change from one shot to the other. It's better that they're not there, because sometimes I can lose objectivity because I know when the cut is going to come. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, because you've done it so many. Yeah.
I've done it, so I have to forget about it and leave some scenes for some days before going back to them again, maybe. So if the director comes fresh and doesn't know what I've done, I love that moment, because instead of looking at the movie, I just look at the director's reactions, because they tell me everything, if it works and if it doesn't. So I think it's much better. In the long run, I'm cutting the director's movie, not my movie.
But what intrigues me is you've got a rough cut, a rough piece of work. I don't know how many hours it was, 3-4 hours, who knows? I mean, how much footage was there?
No, that wasn't a long. The truth is that I restarted all over. I took the film from the very beginning, and I started recutting it all again from the very beginning.
But how do you cut? What I'm trying to say is, you've got the vision from a director, you've got the footage, but you are then left alone to cut the film, pretty much, I guess, yeah? But how can you be sure? Actually, I sort of know the answer to this, because I get the impression that editors have got to have the final say on the cut, because otherwise, if they've got to trust your eye, haven't they?
Yes,
That's
you
what I
know,
meant
this
to.
change. You know, in the end, the director comes and we do a final go through, and we can change the bits that don't work.
Right, okay.
But of course, while editing, for instance, last year I cut a movie that was shot in Canada,
Yeah.
and I was sending the director my first cuts, you know, so that he could see what was working, what didn't work, and if there
Right.
were some, for instance, if some performances weren't good enough, or quite, you know.
So you can do
could
that,
realize that
on a daily basis, if
Yes,
possible? Yeah, right,
yeah,
okay.
and that's very interesting for the directors because they see if they got some feeble points and they can do better. And in the end, you always cut the director's movie, although sometimes the film that they think they've shot isn't that. Sometimes the directors think that they've made a film that isn't there.
What, because of the way you cut it?
No, because they haven't done what they thought they have done.
Right.
And what is good about this is that they let you work and you try to make the film the director wants to come out, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the film wants to go in a different direction, and you have to let it go. You have to help the director understand that the film maybe works better that way. So it's interesting, this interaction. Also, the editors, we should know a bit about structure, for instance. And when you put the film together, one scene after the other, then you realize that maybe what was good in the script doesn't work.
On the screen,
Yes, on the screen, and so you have to move some scenes around. Sometimes you have to cut some bits of dialogue because it's not the same, the written, than the spoken or the performance, you know? And maybe there is a reaction, or there is the eye says things, and you don't need the dialogue, you need the words, you know, you can cut bits. So these are things that we're used to dealing with, and timing and pace and all that. No?
And how did you fall into this? Because this is such a fantastic, I really like the editor's role, because I imagine that you're the master of everything that's in front of you. They finish the film, you're putting it together.
So this is a very interesting point. You know, the film doesn't exist. Even if they've written, they've shot it, the actors have done their job, everybody, the film doesn't exist. Doesn't have a definitive shape until it's come out from the cutting room. So it's a very interesting moment, a very interesting process.
So what's your background too? Before you became an editor, were you involved in film before?
I've always been an editor
for
so many years.
So you've seen the transition from 35mm to digital?
Yes, yes, of course. I even cut on the vertical, the Moviola, the old Moviola, the vertical one.
Really?
The old, very old system. Because the truth is, I went to London when I was like 17 years old.
Right.
Because I wanted a different world. I didn't want the life I was supposed to have. You know? So I went to London, and I was lucky enough to get into a group of people who were students of film, of cinema.
Yeah.
And so when I went back to Barcelona, we didn't have a school of cinema, so the only way to learn was to go into the theatre and film circles and see. I don't know, for instance, if you liked one of Hitchcock's movies, let's say Rear Window, you went once and again to see the same movie, so as you know, because there was a scene that you were really interested in.
Or to see how it was cut,
whatever, so it was difficult. But anyway, I started as apprentice in Barcelona. And when I became an editor, I worked in the vertical, in the flat table, and now the digital, of course. And I've always been sound editor also, not only
so
for many years.
Right, okay.
But not now, because after the digital, the Pro Tools and all that, we've got to give that away too. But it was great to have been sound editor, because when you edit, when you cut a movie, you also think in terms of sound, you know? There's some things that are working in your head, and your timing works better, because you think also not only in relation to the image, but on the sound that is going to be there, you know?
If a filmmaker came to you right now and said, I'm making a film, we're filming 35mm, how difficult would it be for you to go back to it? I mean, guess what I'm saying? When was the last time?
You're right.
When was the last time you cut 35mm?
Look, I don't know, quite a long time ago. At the beginning, it was difficult to move to the digital system.
Yeah.
Do you know why? Because in the filming, the 35, we had the possibility, the possibility of projecting our cuts.
Yeah,
no?
yeah.
And usually you'd have ask for a projection, and then you would change your timing and say, here, this is slow, this is too quick. So to run the movie in a cinema was great while you were doing the cutting. This is something that I miss. But now it's so difficult to
and it's
to
convenient
move back.
now, though. Surely it's the convenience now, isn't it?
I don't know.
So you do miss.
I'm not sure. You know, I went to New York and I met Selma Schumacher, the editor.
Of Scorsese's editor, yeah.
And she was doing Casino in digital for the first time,
Right.
Lightworks system. And I said, my God, if they've moved to this, I have to. When I came back, I wanted to work in Lightworks too. But they had the two systems running at the same time. They would cut a scene, and then they would have a 35 millimeters copy printed,
Yeah.
and then they would project that in a cinema in a room.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
they were rich, you know,
right,
they were
yeah,
rich.
yeah.
So but we didn't have these opportunities in Spain. But now, the truth is that this system, once you get used to it, is much better because you've got all the takes, all the bad takes.
Yeah.
And before we didn't. We just they printed only the good takes. So now you can go through the bad takes, and sometimes you find very interesting things. Because you've got everything that's been shot now.
Mm-hmm.
And they shot a lot because there's no negative involved. You can shot whatever you wish, you know? And from the shot material, you can pick up many interesting things. For instance, reactions. Reactions are most important things in a dialogue film like this one.
How long did it take to edit this?
Like 6 weeks or something.
6 weeks. It sounds like a long time to me, but I guess that's a typical time to cut a
Could
film.
be more.
Because you're trimming and cutting and moving
Yeah,
and
but
adjusting.
usually it would take to cut a movie. It takes much more than that.
Oh, really? So that's
yes,
quite right. Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing because I didn't have much material. In fact, but what I had was very good performances. I don't know if you've seen the movie.
Yes, I have actually. Yeah.
But the performances are so great that I only had to deal with, you know, finding the best performance and then dealing with timing, pace, where to put a reaction, you know. I think this film is based on a play, a very well-known no? and good play, but if in the theatre dialogue is king, I think that in the movies it's reaction. You know? Reactions are all important. And what you don't say, the subtext, no? In this film, for instance, it's so important. What they don't say, but you see in their actions, their body movements and their eyes, what they're really thinking. No? So this is the most interesting thing for me.
I mean, you must have a fascinating life. I mean, it's an incredible life, really, to do what you do and to work in what you do and have worked on so many films. I mean,
not everybody can truly likes editing because that's about being alone in a room, you know, in a cutting room, many hours.
Yeah.
And I tell the students many times, if you are not patient enough, you can't work as editor because you have to be very patient and of course be in love with what you do, you know. This is the best moment of the day to be working in the editing room. So this is something that I truly enjoy. But you must be a very special person. When I went to, I didn't know what to do, to be a script girl or whatever, and I didn't decide whether I wanted to work in movie business, but I didn't know where, no? And I used to go to the shootings on location, and I said, my God, I don't want to be here.
That looks like too much hard work,
Lots of noise, people moving around, nobody paying attention to anybody, so no. I want the director to myself, I want to be in control. No?
Yeah.
You are in control in the cutting room.
Yeah, because it's down to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ultimately, and I suppose that's the difference. And I don't suppose you've got anyone directing you as such, because I suppose you're taking the jumbled up final product and making it work.
Yeah.
And they just got to trust your vision.
No, because it's that, as I told you before, it is the director's vision. I am only an interpreter.
Sorry, your interpretation
of
I should say
because
your interpretation.
Because the way he shots the movie is in a certain way telling me how to cut it, you know? If it's like a very rich movie, like in the States, maybe in the American industry, that they may shot a film from every possible angle. Then the director is like the editor, is like a director, because has to decide among infinite possibilities. But in European movies, the way the director, when he chooses to put the camera somewhere instead of some other place, and he tells me his way of shooting. He tells me how to do the edit, And you were telling me about you were asking me about the 35 millimeters.
Yeah.
This editor, Michael Kahn,
Yes.
who is Spielberg's editor. He's the only one probably left on Earth who's still working with 35 millimeters.
Yeah, because Spielberg still shoots on 35 mm, doesn't he? In fact, he refuses to go to digital.
And they've got, my God, so much material to work with. The difference is that you have to put all this material on your flatbed and remove it, and so you become very strong,
Listen, thank you for that. Brilliant.